into that lower back and into the kidneys. Nice, you guys. And then from here, just bring your right foot flat on the floor. Place your left ankle on top of your right knee, right thigh, allowing your left knee to flare open towards the left. And then you can take your left hand and place it somewhere on your inner left thigh, inner left knee area. And then just flexing your left foot, just gently allow that outer left hip to press forward. And if you feel a good stretch right here, then you just hold there. If you feel like maybe you need a little bit more, then feel free to slip your left arm through the legs. And with both hands, you can grab your left hamstring, maybe left shin, and then start to draw your right thigh in towards your chest, in towards your belly, into our first hip opener. And of course, anatomically, our hips are the largest joint in our body. So there's a lot of muscle, a lot of bone, a lot of nerve, a lot of meridians that intersect through this complicated joint. And so this practice is, again, specifically devoted to making sure that these hips are open, supple, loose, and healthy. Within these long, slow, sustained, deep stretches, you'll move underneath the outer surface muscles, and you'll move deeper into the ligaments, the connective tissue, the fascia, and even the joint capsules, even into the bones. There's a little gentle pressure that gets exerted into those areas, and that pressure is ultimately what stimulates good quality, deeper, healthy tissue. And most of these poses will be holding anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes. So the long holds, the quality of the stillness, and then finding your sweet spot where you feel the edge, you feel the resistance, but you're not aggressively jamming your way beyond that, are really the conditions, the 3 main conditions that constitute our yin practice. Take the last few breaths there. Good, you guys. Now keep the legs as is. Go ahead and unthread your left arm. Wrap your left leg right on top of your right leg. Extend your left arm over towards the left on the floor. And with your legs wrapped on top of each other, just let your knees now gently fall all the way over to the right. So you come into just a wrap leg spinal twist. Just feel your spine, feel that lower back especially, just releasing and opening up as we continue to look more for quality than quantity. As you move in and out of these poses, just notice where you feel the sensation of stretch, the sensation of stimulation. And then just see if you can breathe right into the source of that. So you can use that focus, that concentration in yoga, what we call dharana, to steer that energy where you choose it to go to increase the potency of the pose. Alright, you guys, from here, bring the knees all the way back up to neutral. Unwrap the legs, grab the shins, squeeze the knees, the thighs back into the chest. And then open your knees out. Just start to circle them around a few times. So spread them out, bring them back together. And it's nice after the deep yin stretch to just move things around a little bit to circulate some of that prana, or what the Taoists call the chi, around. Good, and then we'll come into that thread the needle pigeon on the other side. So this time you'll place that right ankle on top of the left knee, left thigh. And remember, you have the choice of having the foot flat on the floor, that left foot. Or maybe you start there and you hang out there for a minute or two. And then as your right hip starts to open up, then maybe you want to reach back and grab the back of that left thigh. And just make sure that you have an active flex through your right foot. And that'll provide support around the right knee so that we don't create any strain there.
Attention! If you've been considering going back and getting your high school diploma, then stay tuned, because this may be one of the most life-changing videos you ever watched. In this video, you'll discover flexible, fun, and easy ways for you to get your high school diploma. Take classes from the comfort of your home, all on your schedule. If that sounds good to you, then go ahead and click the link you see in the description of this video to learn more. Otherwise, let's jump right in. Hi, my name is Holly, and I'm excited to introduce you to the U.S. Career Institute. The U.S. Career Institute, USCI for short, is a school that was originally founded 42 years ago to prepare adults.
Just there. Nice, you guys. Just keeping that gentle wave of breath flowing. Go ahead and unthread the right arm. Extend that out to the right as you wrap your right leg right on top of the left end. You might want to kind of shift your hips a little bit over to the right, and then let those knees just splay all the way over to the left. Sometimes it feels good to take that left hand and just rest it somewhere on that outer right knee, right thigh area. And just now, of course, finding that twist on the other side. I'd like to share a quote from Lao Tzu from the Tao Te Ching, who said, "A man is born gentle and weak. At his death, he is hard and stiff. All things, including the grass and trees, are soft and pliable in life, dry and brittle in death. Stiffness is thus a companion of death, flexibility a companion of life. An army that cannot yield will be defeated. A tree that cannot bend will crack in the wind. The hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail." So that's what we find within our practice of yin, is that a pervading sense of suppleness, so that our bodies are more adaptive, but hopefully also our minds become more adaptive. We're all facing challenges on probably a daily basis. And a mind that's adaptive and supple can see things from different vantage points, and then discern what's the best path to take. To always come from a place of wisdom and integrity. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to make anything happen. You just maneuver your way into the shape. You let go, and you allow that pose and gravity and time to just take care of everything, to let it all work its magic. Alright, you guys, both knees come all the way back up to middle, unwrap the legs, grab the shins, squeeze the knees back in. And then again, just circle those knees around, just open, bring them in. You can do it a few times in one direction and a few times the opposite direction. And then go ahead and hug the knees back into the chest. And then just start to rock gently forward, backward, forward, backward. And then go ahead and rock yourself all the way up to seated. And then from seated, we'll come into tabletop position. So roll over onto your knees. Set the hands right underneath the shoulders. Spread the fingers wide. And then cat and cow. So inhale, pull the heart forward, drop the belly, and then exhale, slowly round, chest and chin in. And then just try that on your own, just for a good minute or so, and see how slow you can move and how slow you can breathe. So it's almost like the game is who can move the slowest. And as you slow things down, and you're no longer skimming over the surface of anything, notice how you become more aware of nuance, subtlety, and dimension. And so within that, we deepen our relationship to self. We start to make a greater connection to the things that are going on within, internally. So much of our day, our energy is going out. We're being bombarded by external stimulation. This is the time that we now go inward. Last 2 or 3 rounds of these cat and cows. Nice. From here, come back to a neutral spine, neutral table. Slide the hands forward about maybe 2, 3 or so inches. And then tuck the toes underneath the feet. And then downward facing dog. Go ahead and lift the hips all the way up to the sky. And then just feel free to walk your dog. So alternating one heel down towards the ground. Just do that several times, stretching across the backs of your legs and the backs of your feet. Nice, and then from down dog, go ahead and float that right leg off the ground as you inhale. And then pigeon pose, swing that right shin forward all the way towards the top of the mat. And if you feel any pinch or compression in that right knee, feel free to put a block underneath that outer right hip. If you had a bolster or some sort of a cushion, that would work. And then as you start to let that torso drape down, feel the weight shift back into the hips, away from your front right knee. And then your head can rest down onto the floor. You could put a block underneath your forehead. You bring your hands to fist and stack the fist and put that underneath. And then allow that 15 pounds or so of that skull to just be supported.
Work goes smoothly when you know the right steps. With Asana, you can coordinate tasks across teams and stay on track, so your team can spend more time celebrating wins. Try it for free at asana.com.
Good, you guys. From here, go ahead and slowly exit out by coming all the way back up onto your hands. Come up onto the hands. Just take a couple moments, press down to the hands, and feel your heart lifting up. Feel that expansion. Shoulders drawing back and down. It's almost a little backward bend as well. Just encounter that forward bend. Pressing the shoulder blades into the back of your hearts. Good. From here, we're going to lean into that outer right hip. And then go ahead and swing your left leg all the way around towards the front. And then this next one, you're going to have the left leg straight out in front. We call this half cow. So you lift your right leg up. And your right knee's bent. You try and get your knees stacked right on top of each other so legs as snug as possible. And then if for some reason that totally doesn't feel right, you can always bring your foot to the inner thigh, and then you'll still be in kind of the ballpark. Once you get that lower body set, take an inhale, reach the arms up above, and then go ahead and fold over and down to your own degree. And again, you'll encounter that resistance. You'll feel that edge, that boundary of tension. And this one, can be pretty intense. That's the whole back of your left leg, the hamstring, the glutes, the heel of the calf, and then also your right hip. And remember, whatever arises, you just breathe into it, breathe through it. It's that great quote by Pema Chodron that says, "You are the sky and everything else is the weather." And so the sensations are like the weather, but it never lasts forever. It's all temporary. It's all like a river of change. And so we learn to not grasp, and to not attach, to not cling, but to just let that flow go, because when we fight the flow, it's like rope burn. Rope burn for our nervous system. So just like water, you yield. You yield to the experience. Just breathing into it and breathing through it.
Enter a prompt here. Okay, it can't be that hard. Generate an image of a cat playing guitar.
Awesome, you guys. Go ahead and come all the way back up to seated. And then take your right ankle and set that right around your left knee. And then bend your left foot underneath that outer right knee. You can always sit on a block. You can modify. You can come to easy cross-legged seated position. That'll make it a lot less intense. So just see what feels right for you. Know that you always have options. And so you find the one that just feels right for you and your anatomy, just how you're feeling. Arms to the sky. On the inhale, reach up. And then fold on the exhale, again, to your own degree. Now we all know that this yoga stuff goes back thousands of years. In fact, about 4,000 years ago or so, they were doing an excavation and they found this little metal seal with an engraving of a yogi in a seated meditative position. And so when you think about it, the very first form of physical yoga would have been yin yoga, because it would have been these yogis in like a full lotus or half lotus or sukhasana, easy cross-legged seated position. And of course they were holding those for well over 30 minutes, sometimes hours on end. And so that's a yin style of yoga. But of course it's hard to sit down for those long periods of time if the hips aren't open, if the back, if the spine isn't strong. So all these hip openers that we're targeting tonight will definitely benefit our seated meditation practice. We'll have less resistance, less discomfort, and just more openness. And last few breaths there. Nice, you guys, that's it for this one. Take your time, slowly come all the way back up. And then from here, we'll maneuver our way back to tabletop pose. So all fours position, and take your time, no rush. Takes a while for those deeper tissues to open up, to start to expand, and then when you come out of it, that tenderness that you feel is, the reverse of that. Takes a while for it to kind of slip back into place. From here, go ahead and slide the knees back a couple of inches behind the hips, and then we'll do some hip circles. So just circle your whole body around in a circular and fluid way. And when you do this type of a movement, really important to just get out of your head. So you're not thinking your way through it, you're feeling your way through it. Sometimes our mind and our thinking, analytical mind can block the bridge to that intuitive space. That space of the heart. So instead of thinking your way, just feel your way through it. Moving in a way that just feels good, feels right. And after you've done it a few times one way, you can reverse it the other way. Alright, you guys, and then from here we'll come back to downward facing dog. So tuck the toes, lift the hips, and then float the left leg off the ground on the inhale. And then pigeon on the other side. So classical pigeon, in the Yin tradition they call it the swan pose. But in Hatha Yoga, pigeon, Ekapada Raja Kapottanasana. You just take those first few moments, set your body up, use your props if needed. Once you get well aligned, well situated, just find that stillness. There's this great story about this guy that wrote a letter to the IRS. And in his letter, he was explaining to the IRS how he hadn't had a good night's sleep in over 3 months. And he went on to explain the reason why he hadn't slept well in so long was because he had lied on his tax return. And so he told him he enclosed a check in the letter for $2,000. And then he went on at the very bottom of the letter to write, P.S. If I find myself still not being able to sleep well at night in the future, I'll send you a check for the rest later. And so the moral of the story is like, you know, you get into these poses, you get into these hip releases, you know, and can you just go ahead and write a full check for the full amount? Just letting it all go. Or, you know, do you do it little by little? You know, sometimes we carry that guilt or that anger or that resentment or that irritability or whatever that stuff is that gets lodged within these joints, within these tissues. And can we just have kind of the courage to just release it all, to let it all go so we're not bogged down by it. And then we become more light and more free. that's it for this one. From here, take your time. Slowly ease your way all the way up onto your hands. And then take a few breaths there. Take a few breaths. Press down through the hands. Feel your sternum rise up. Feel the shoulders relax back and down. Feel a little mild backward bend. A little counter movement for the spine. Nice. And then go ahead and lean into that outer left hip. And then swing the right leg all the way up towards the front for our half cow pose. So we'll lift that left leg up, cross the left leg right over top the right. And again, see if you can get your legs as snug as possible, or the modification, what we call Janu Shirsasana, so left foot high to the inner right thigh. Arms to the sky on the inhale, create that lift, get long through the waist, and then fold over and down on the exhale. At some level, this yin practice is way more challenging than a power yoga practice. Because at least within our power yoga practice, it buys into the way that we're living our lives, just constantly on the move, jumping from one thing to the next. But in this practice, you get into those long holes and you just gotta marinate with just you and yourself and your thoughts and all the inner mechanics that constitute who you are. And as well within that, to not let the mind wander off. So there's that mental strength component. The ability to stay present, to stay mindful, to function in the now, to not go into past, to not go into future, but to just be with the experiences happening right here, right now, and whatever that experience is. Whether it's pleasurable or whether it's incredibly sweet. And the moments where you probably got to be on guard the most that the mind doesn't drift away is when you're in that state of it being in between the intensity or the sweetness, you know, when it just feels mundane or ordinary or dull or whatever. But even in those moments, to continue to stay dialed in. And of course it's a practice, so we're human, and that mind at various times is going to go away. It's going to slip into distraction, so you notice that happening. And you very compassionately let the distraction go, and you just come back to your breath, or you come back to the sensation that you're feeling. And every time you come back, that's a victory of mindfulness. Take your time, slowly come all the way back up to a vertical spine. Set that left ankle right around that right knee. Double seated pigeon. Right foot comes underneath that left knee. Feel free to grab a block, throw that underneath the hips, elevate the hips up, or come into easy cross-legged seated position. Arms to the sky, on the inhale, reach them up. And then fold over and down. Just take about 3 minutes or so there. Last few breaths there. Awesome, guys. Slowly come all the way back up. And back to tabletop pose. All fours position. From the table, slide the knees back a couple of inches. And then another round of hip circles. Long, slow, deep stretch. Just circulate some of that blood, some of that medicine around those hips. Nice, you guys. From here, go ahead and crawl your knees towards the front of your yoga mat. And then cross the feet behind you. Release all the way down to your sit bones. And then we'll do feet flat on the floor, knees straight up to the sky. Bring your hands behind the hips, about a foot or so. Fingers face forward. And then just on an inhale, go ahead and float the hips up, and then on the exhale, softly lower the hips back down. Couple more like that. Inhale, rise up, and exhale now. Good, one more time. Inhale, come up, and exhale, come down. Good. Now crawl the hands forward. And then take your left leg, your bent left knee, and bring it underneath your right leg. So your left knee is pointing straight towards the front of the studio. Grab your right ankle, right foot, lift that foot up and just cross it right over top that left knee, left eye. Now take your right hand and bring it onto the ground right behind your tailbone. And then your left arm, we're going to take the kind of more yin variation. So the left arm is just going to wrap around that left leg. Now on the inhale, lift the spine tall so you create that length and that elevation. And on the exhale, just gently turn your belly in towards that inner thigh. And then we'll be here, this one, just for about a minute or so. But feel free to close the eyes if that feels right. For some reason that doesn't feel right, at the very least, soften your gaze. Bring your gaze forward towards the front of the studio and then slowly unravel out of the twist. From here, bring your hands in front of your knees and get your legs and your knees as snug on top of each other as you can. Once you get that snug, then you're going to draw the hips back. And some of you may want to take a block and slide that underneath your hips. You're sitting on a block. Again, it just depends on how your hips and your body are feeling. Some of you can come all the way down onto the ground. So use that block if needed. Sometimes the top knee comes up, and then you can put a block between the knees. That can work really well as well. So just see what feels right. And then we'll bring the hands to the inner arches of the feet. So that's connected to that yin channel. And then inhale, lift that spine back up. And then on that exhale, just start to fold down to what we call Gomukhasana in the Yin tradition, shoelace pose. A couple weeks ago, we had an advanced anatomy workshop, and this amazing guy, Dr. Jeremy Brook, came in to lead the anatomy. And he said the most important movement that we need in our culture is what we call internal rotation of the hips. And we get that in this pose big time. Most of what we do is going to be a neutral or an external rotation, but this is big internal. And so if you're feeling a lot of sensation within this pose, there's probably a good reason for that. Probably just not used to your body mechanics being used in that way. But as that Lao Tzu quote said, you want to find and feel that suppleness and that softness. Because ultimately that suppleness is the key to life and longevity. Alright, you guys go ahead and start to transition all the way back up to seated. Bring your hands behind your hips. Unwrap the legs. Feet flat on the floor. Spread the feet out a good distance, so about the width of the mat. And then windshield wiper, knees side to side. As your knees go one way, turn the gaze the opposite way. And it becomes just a full body joint opener. Ankles, knees, hips, lower back, neck, shoulders, chest. Good. Knees back up. Crawl the hands in. This time you'll take that right leg and you'll bend that right knee. So right knee straight forward. Grab that left ankle. Grab that bad boy. Lift it up. Cross it over top. That right knee, right thigh. Take your left hand. Bring it onto the ground behind you. So you line your thumb up right behind your tailbone and then that right arm. Just going to kind of wrap around and hug that left leg. On the inhale, lift the spine up so you create that decompression. And then on the exhale, real gently turning into that twist. Closing the eyes. Staying with that mantra of the breath. Mantra literally means to support or to reinforce the mind. So you use your breath as an anchor. Stay anchored within the present. knees forward first. So release the neck, then release the thoracic, the middle, and then eventually the lumbar. Crawl forward onto the hands, get those knees snug, open the feet out, get your block ready if you want. Sit onto your block, or sit all the way down to the floor. Inner feet, hands rest at the inner arches. On the inhale, spine lifts up with levity. And on the exhale, just fold into your own degree into our last seated pose. Everybody from here, go ahead and ease your way all the way back up. Uncross, unwrap your legs, and transition all the way down to your back. Recline all the way down to your back. Once you get onto your back, grab your shins. Draw your knees back into the chest, the belly. And then both feet flat on the floor, the width of the hips. Heels come in towards the hips. Extend the arms forward along your yoga mat, palms face down. You set up for what we call a dynamic bridge or pulsing bridge. So on an inhale, lift the hips up and bring the arms all the way up over your head. So hips and arms come up. And then on the exhale, just slowly reverse that. So slowly bring the arms back down and lower the hips and the lower back down. And then try that a few more times just on your own. And this becomes a sweet little reclining backward bend movement. And a great release for those hip flexors. Next time the arms come up and the hips come up, just hold there and take a last 5 or so breaths. Just keep the arms up over the head, keep the hips lifting up. And one last inhale, gently press to the feet, lift that navel. And then exhale, slowly bring the arms and the back all the way on to the ground. Nice, you guys. Reach down, grab your shins, squeeze the knees into the chest. One last little hip stretch, happy baby. So take the hands, slide them down the legs, grab the outer edges of the feet. Entice your thighs down and give your hips one last little touch. And you got those hips from all angles, all directions. Maybe it feels good to do a little gentle rock side to side, give your back a massage. Nice, bring the inner knees back together to your chest, to your belly. One last little twist before we come into final relaxation. Extend your left leg forward along the floor. Spread the right arm out over to the right. Let that right shoulder blade become heavy. And then just let that right knee fall gently all the way across over to the left. And usually at this point, I'm in a whole different place than when I started my practice. Especially if I had the courage to let go. Allow your mind to become incredibly, incredibly still. Almost like a really, really still lake out in the middle of the forest. So still, there's no waves or fluctuations or ripples. So still that you can see all the way down to the very bottom, the very depths of that lake. And so still that the lake is like a mirror. It reflects the beauty around it, like a mirror. Go ahead and bring the right knee all the way back up to neutral. And then second side as you're ready, draw the left thigh in. Extend the right leg out. Spread the left arm like a wing to the left. And then let that left knee drape all the way across over to the right. left knee all the way back up to center. Go ahead and squeeze both the left and the right thigh back into the chest. And then finally, take an inhale, curl the forehead up to the knees. Give your whole body a big squeeze. And then exhale, Shavasana. Corpse pose. Release. Relax down onto your back. Make sure that you're comfortable. And feel free to set yourself up for that comfort. As you get well situated, you close the eyes. Just to send us deep into this final pose of stillness, of relaxation. Just take a nice big inhale through the nose. Fill your lungs all the way up. Hold it at the top. And then on the exhale, sigh it out. Let it go. One more time, just like that. Big inhale. Fill the lungs all the way up to the brim. Hold at the top, retain. And exhale, let it all go.
In today's working world, complexity is everywhere. Thomson Reuters is combining technology and AI, content, and expertise, so you can move faster, see further, and accomplish more.
If you're taking a trip with your friends, why pay for 4 hotel rooms to stay apart from your friends? Get an Airbnb and stay together for less.
And just feel yourself dissolving and drifting into stillness, inner silence, self, source, and bliss. Shavasana. body from here real gradually. Start to feel yourself just coming back into the space, back onto your mat. And driving back into your body, back into those hips, back to that gentle wave of the breath. As you bring that serenity that you just dropped into with you. Start to move the fingertips and the toes around as a way to reactivate the peripheral of the body. And go ahead and reach the arms all the way up over